Hello everybody, I'm Christa Jacobson, headmistress of the Budo Dojo, and today I'm going to do a book review over a book called 21st Century Ninjutsu, A Warrior's Way of Life by Allie Alberigo. You see I've got little sticky notes on some of the pages that I really enjoy. This is a good book. Allie Alberigo is a ninjutsu Ninpo practitioner and teacher, and he has a school, a chain of schools called Allie Ninjutsu Center. I'm going to have all of Mr. Alberigo's information posted below in the description, as well as a link to his school if you would like to have more information on him. I first saw this book, 21st Century Ninjutsu, and I was very intrigued and wanting to read it. And the reason I was so intrigued at first, for me personally, I have worked with Mr. Alberigo for years through the Shinobi no Mono magazine, and he has been a contributor and a supporter of the magazine as well as a writer. So through that, I have been able to read a lot of his works, a lot of the things that he has said and his thoughts within the martial arts, and as well as ninjutsu. And one thing rings true when all the years that I've worked with him with the Shinobi no Mono magazine is that he is a very passionate and driven man within the arts. And anytime, speaking from my own personal opinion, when I see someone else that's that driven and that passionate about what they do, it motivates me. It makes me want to be a better teacher. It makes me to want to train even harder. And I will definitely say he does not disappoint at all. If you guys have ever kept up with anything that he does, like I said earlier, he's a very passionate person. And that passion and that discipline is definitely portrayed very well in this book. Another reason I was very interested in reading the book when I first see it, just from the cover, okay, is, I run a martial arts organization called the Budo, or School of the Warrior Way. In my school, we teach these 7 warrior traditions, and we look at the old kata, and then how can we apply these fighting techniques, these warrior methods, strategies, and principles, and then put them in the modern day. So I see this book called 21st Century Ninjutsu, written by a very highly respected martial arts teacher, and I wanted to read it. I wanted to see, okay, what is his thoughts? What is his way of thinking about taking this old art and then applying it into the modern day? So that's where I began the read. The book is a really interesting read, and what I mean by that is there's very few times that I've actually picked up a book and then read it cover to cover. Very few times in my life have I ever done that with anything, whether it's a book or a magazine or anything else for that matter. And I will say this is one of the few books that I did that with. It is really intriguing. And I feel like I got to know Mr. Alberigo a lot more because he puts so much personal passion in the words that he chooses when talking about the arts and talking about his personal training, when he was talking about Tanamura and the Genbukan and all the different things that he did with his training when he was younger with certain teachers. And I just thought that was really good. Very well written. When you see this 21st Century Ninjutsu, you're going to think, okay, it's going to talk about how you can take a sword method or a defense against a sword, empty-handed versus sword, and how you can modify that slightly to go make that be an empty-handed versus a knife. That's really not what this book's about. Okay, if you guys are looking for one of those technical kind of books on how to defend a knife, how to take an old sword kata versus empty hand and then defend a knife, I would say this isn't that kind of book. It's not a technical book like that. What this is a book that's based on how you take the old principles and strategies and take that method or that way. From that way, how you apply that to your training in your life today. And I thought that it was just absolutely wonderful. Anybody that's a martial artist, I don't care whether it's karate do, aikido, kendo, judo, iaido, the principles, the strategies, the methods that he talks about, the way that you take these old philosophies, and you apply them to the world that we live today, it is really good. And I think anybody of any martial art lineage or any martial arts school can benefit from reading this book. What I like when you start reading it, I'm going to go through my little sticky notes now, okay? When you start reading this book, you see really quick, he talks about what he thinks. Unlike most authors where they say, okay, this is ninjutsu, this is samurai bujutsu, this is kenjutsu, these are the techniques, 1, 2, 3, 4. He sums it up pretty much in one paragraph, and that's why it becomes so intriguing, because it pulls you in. He starts out by saying, this is what I think. This is my experience. And from my experience and my knowledge, this is what I do. So then it immediately starts pulling you in, and I really like the way that he opened up the book. And he talks about what is 21st Century Ninjutsu, how you can take the old methods and pull it into the world today. He talks about some of the some of the, I don't want to say classes, but definitely some of the training moments in his life when he was a lot younger, and some of the things that he talked about was definitely, you know, very traditional ninjutsu that a lot of us see in some of the old densho and things like that. So it's really, really, really good. In chapter 3, he talks about the introduction to Ninpo and all the different things that go behind the philosophy of Ninpo. And he backs every one of it with a personal experience. And I thought that was really, really, really good. He also talks about spirituality. And a lot of times people like to get away from that. Which kudos to him for that, actually. Not in some sort of a way where he's speaking of it in a religious aspect, but just, you know, it is there. And there's something more than just the physical form of fighting, that there's an essence to it. And I really, really enjoyed that aspect of the book. That was definitely something that I stuck a sticky note on that page because I read it, and when you read a page 49, okay, there's a snippet on that page that it's really good. It's pretty motivating to anybody who teaches Ninpo or practices it. You read that little snippet, and it's definitely motivating in the sense of you get this sense, or you feel more connected to the art that you are practicing, regardless of organizational ties. You could read this book, and the words that he says in that page are extremely powerful, and it will actually make you feel a little bit closer to the art that you practice. In this book, he talks about tradition and how tradition it originates from its core, and then how that tradition maintains tradition throughout life or throughout time. And he says a story in here about a little girl at Thanksgiving, and using that as an analogy with tradition and how we still take the same tradition and apply that to the modern day. And that story that he puts in this book is really good, guys. It's really good. You will definitely enjoy that part of the book as well. That's definitely something that it'll make you see the art that you practice, regardless of art. It will, if you take that same story and apply it to the art, it'll make you look at it differently. One thing that I think is really good about this book, it's not just about the philosophies and things like that. It's also the way that he takes them and he applies them to his life, and he takes that life experience and then gives kind of a little lesson off of that, you know, and an example. One thing I knew about Mr. Alberigo, at one time he was an instructor in the Genbukan organization. He was very high ranking within that particular organization under Shoto Tanamura. And you know, I knew that there was something had happened where, you know, he had left, and he decided to do his own thing with Allie Ninjutsu. He talks about that, and he gives lots of credit to all of his teachers, including Tanamura. And he talks about how all of his experiences within training with all of his teachers, not just Tanamura Sensei, but all of his teachers that he had trained with, he talks about how it was so rewarding to him to train with them, and that he thinks that it was a beautiful part of his life. And he talks about that particular thing with a lot of passion. I would like to say this: anybody who studies under Mr. Alberigo with the Allie Ninjutsu Centers, you got to read the book. This book, it's your teacher's words about how to take the old way and put it in the new way. I mean, right here, this is your master's words saying this is what it's about. So definitely, if you guys are part of the Allie Ninjutsu Center, it's a guaranteed buy. To those who are not part of the Allie Ninjutsu Center, just random students in martial arts, it doesn't matter what organization you're with or what political ties you have with specific martial organizations. This book will still help you in your journey. Now, like I said, it's not a technical book. I mean, if you're looking for a book that's going to help you with stick fighting, knife fighting techniques, grappling techniques, you know, that kind of thing, it's definitely not that. Where this book is really good is it helps you open your mind on how to look at something old and put the beauty and the worth of something from an old tradition into the current day. I highly recommend this book, 21st Century Ninjutsu by Allie Alberigo. All the information on the author is going to be below here in the description. So there's going to be a link to Mr. Allie Alberigo and his martial art organization that he has created called Allie Ninjutsu Centers. There's a link below. Also, there's a link below too if you'd like to purchase this book. I put a link below here as well, so you guys can purchase that book. I highly recommend it. It's an excellent book. So here it is, 21st Century Ninjutsu by Allie Alberigo. A Warrior's Way of Life. Thank you guys very much. Take care, be safe, and good luck in your journey today.